timber that's born. Our love gives me warmth and shelter. Sounds like music and it smells so sweet. Grace and beauty are the constant beat. Horses around me and I feel like I'm home. 'Cause I'm wild about barns. 'Cause I'm wild about barns. 'Cause I'm wild about barns. Wild about barns.
In a clearing in the woods on the eastern shore of Chesapeake Bay, there's a barn that defies convention. An innovative structure that reflects the exotic travels, passions, and talents of its designers, whose creative energy is harmonized like a classical duet. Carrie, I absolutely love your barn.
Thank you. Well, it's octagonal, and it wouldn't have happened without my husband, Peter.
It's a work in progress. It's not finished.
Carrie, a classically trained cellist, first met husband Peter when her string quartet rehearsed in the same studio where Peter was teaching classical guitar. At the time, she was in fertilizer sales after a 5-year stint as an animal behaviorist in Africa.
Being a fertilizer salesman made me very lonely for animal company. So one day I just got it in my head that a great way to combine people and animals would be to become a farrier, where I could work with people and their horses every day.
Her farrier career and life with Peter began around the same time, and she started thinking about a barn when the couple bought their property. The first hint that this would be a very special place was in the name they gave it. Caper Lea, it's such a beautiful name. It's very lyrical, almost back to your music background in a way, right? How'd you come up with that name?
A lea is a clearing in the woods, like a meadow.
Oh, okay.
So we came up with that, and then a caper is like a frolicking leap, like what the horses would be doing in the lea.
Makes sense. Next on Wild About Barns, intimacy and innovation on Maryland's eastern shore. It's a real horse treat. Stay tuned. The design of the barn itself was inspired by the barns Carrie saw in Africa.
She said they just had round buildings. They didn't have buildings with corners.
Lucky for Carrie, Peter was a university-trained furniture builder who also had a good deal of boat building experience.
The first thing we did was a running shed, 8-sided as a kind of a proof of concept. There were 2 of them built, and then we started on this. I made this from a model.
But when he showed the design to traditional barn makers, they just kind of scratched their heads.
But everybody was kind of put off by those strange angles. So we ended up having to build them ourselves.
And you've never built anything like this before?
Not 8-sided, but as a boat builder, it's had more interest to me to build something like this.
While Peter worked on the barn and held down a full-time job, Carrie was working her tail off as well to help fund the project, gradually building up her business to 150 horses a month.
It took about 20 years. It was 10 years before we started to build this barn, which took us 7 years to build it.
And now that it's built, you can see the genius in the design. It's round for a reason.
If it's a windy day, doesn't matter which way the wind's blowing from, there's always ventilation in the barn like this, because there's an opening on each side.
And the horses can all see outside from any stall. If there's one horse in the barn, they can always see another horse.
And why was that so important to you?
Yeah, well, it's honoring their nature. Horse is the herd animal, and they're usually more content if they can at least see another horse.
Of course, being 2 serious musicians, there's also a bit of music in the 8-sided design.
There's 8 notes in a scale. We're both musicians, and we could relate to the 8-sided octagonal barn.
I love it. Now that the barn is essentially complete, Carrie's been able to realize her dream of running a horseboarding business.
I found a really nice service for my clients. When they go out of town and they can't find a farm sitter, they can bring their horses to me, and they get private turnout and very good care.
And I hear they get groomed twice a day with massages.
Absolutely. And their feet done too if they need them.
Like a spa.
Exactly. That's what people call this here.
the Caper Lea Spa.
Seems like the horses are pretty calm with you. Do you ever have many issues with them?
No, you know, Ingrid, that's a good observation because a lot of horses that I do had been considered hellions for previous farriers. But I think a lot of horses are owned and ridden and worked with by women, and they are less frightened by women than some men sometimes. Plus, I always keep a mess of these cookies in my pocket.
That's your secret. But not everything about the barn is for horses. There's a space for people too, up on top. Oh my God, this is amazing.
It's a guest house.
Okay, but where do they sleep?
Over there is a high bed.
Okay.
And then there's also a loft up here.
Wow, I bet the kids do love this.
It's kind of like an eagle's nest.
Fun. And the cupola
Yeah.
up there is just for ventilation.
It's like a little tree house.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Carrie, for showing me that. That was such a beautiful loft. Thank you. Just everything about this property, everything you've done with it is just so specific with the details. It's so innovative.
Thank you.
It's an important place in my life, this barn.
Kind of like a never-ending duet that grows richer and more satisfying with time.